Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is going to be a kind of a video idea. Maybe it could turn into a thread, but just an idea that I had about an hour ago when I was listening to an album. And just when I put the album on and the first song came on, I hadn't listened to the album in a little while. And I just kind of thought, man, like this band's debut album, for this to be the first track on side one, that's one heck of an introduction to the world. Your first album, side one, track one is gonna be the first one that people hear. I mean, you follow me here. Of course, you hear stuff on the radio, blah 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 blah. But like that thought process, and so it just made me kind of think, what are some of the other best introduction to the world type of songs for other artists? So that's what I did. I kind of started just going through my collection and pulling out stuff where I was thinking, yeah, this is one, this is one, and this is one. And so I pulled out a number of them, and I just kind of narrowed it down to 10 out of the ones I pulled out. There's a ton more I could have pulled, but these are the 10 I just decided to show this particular video. So I'm just going to kind of entitle this Introduction to the World. So best debut albums, side one, track ones. And so the one that made me, of course, think about this, I said I was playing, was this one right here, which is Van Halen. Of course, you guys know this album very, very inside and out. Most people, they kind of oftentimes say this is their favorite Van Halen album, and I can definitely see why. But yeah, when I put this on, I just started thinking about that. When Running with the Devil kicked in, and I'm like, man, if that was the first song that people heard by you, like that's one heck of a, hey, here we are kind of statement of a track one, side one on your debut album. So Van Halen is definitely on that list. So that's one. Another kind of heck of a Here We Are world, side one, track one off the debut, Boston. I mean, really the first thing that you put on people is More Than a Feeling to introduce yourself to the world. That definitely has to be on this list. I mean, this entire album, of course, is just it's just one heck of a punch. But yeah, as far as the opening track on a side one debut, that must be on there. And I think you might be able to say that about this one too, which of course is Black Sabbath and the self-titled track Black Sabbath. This came out in 1970, and I mean the thing that always really kind of gets me about this one too, it's just the way I think about it is that song today is creepy. Like, with all the gore and everything we see in our horror movies and everything else today, heck, in real life today for that matter, like this song still holds up as being a very creepy, eerie, blah blah blah. I can't imagine what it was like back in 1970, and this may sound stupid, but only being a few months out of the 60s, like they were doing this at a time where this just wasn't a thing. So I can only imagine the here we are world kind of feeling that someone had hearing that for the first time. So Black Sabbath definitely has to be on there. And this is one I debated a little bit, but the more I kept narrowing down from the stuff that I pulled out, this one just kind of in my mind was proving itself more and more as being deserving of being one of my 10 picks right now. And it is Norah Jones, Come Away With Me. Her release from 2004, and of course the opening track on this was Don't Know Why. And between Don't Know Why and Come Away With Me, those were two gigantic hits that just threw her on the map in a major way. And with her style and kind of the somewhat jazzy, somewhat soft indie, kind of all that stuff being mixed together. I mean, Don't Know Why, it was a heck of a way to say Here I Am world. So definitely I think she's definitely worthy of being in the top 10 of the ones that I pulled out. Next one here, song may not be as big. This may be more of a personal thing on this one, but I feel comfortable putting it on my list, which is of course 9 Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine and the song Head Like a Hole. Again, I just think to introduce yourself to the world through that song is pretty freaking fantastic. And so this is their release from 1989. The whole album is fantastic, but again, now the next one here, this is one that I think is a song that we all know. I think it's so played out and everything else that it almost becomes like elevator music. We hear it all the time, but in the context of this question, how can you not have Take It Easy by the Eagles? I mean, again, introducing yourself to the world through that song at that time is pretty freaking huge. So I feel more than comfortable putting Take It Easy on this list. And the next one here, I think should be on everyone's list, because not only did this song introduce this particular artist, but this song introduced rock and roll, quite frankly. Tutti Frutti by Little Richard. I mean, yeah, it's this song was an introduction even beyond just himself. You know, of course, Chuck Berry was doing his thing, and you know, Jerry Lee Lewis, and like, you even throw Elvis in there, I guess, to some degree. But in my mind, Chuck Berry and Little Richard are really kind of the godfathers of rock and roll, and you know, he introduced himself as being one of the godfathers of rock and roll with Tutti Frutti off that album. Another one here, a song that you hear all the time. We all know it. But again, when you think about it in the context of this question, I think it's very easy to say Phil Collins, you know, In the Air of the Night off of Face Value, definitely deserves to be in this particular conversation. Again, intro to you as an artist in the 80s, and that song is Air of the Night, In the Air of the Night. Definitely deserves that list without question. Another one that probably would make a lot of people's lists, even if you don't necessarily listen to it as much anymore, I think it's hard to argue that Guns N' Roses coming through with Welcome to the Jungle was one heck of an introduction as well. And so not a lot I have to say about that, but I definitely think that this is one that easily deserves to be on a list. And last but not least, I'm going to go with the Ramones, their debut album from 1976. And of course, off of this, you have the song Blitzburg Bop, which to me is almost like the punk rock theme song. Well, like to me, when I think about the world of punk rock, the, you know, just kind of everything that goes around it, that song to me is kind of like the theme song that represents, this is about to be a discussion about punk rock. This is about to be a documentary about punk rock. And like that song just kind of holds that level of a place for me. I mean, by far not my favorite song by them. I actually like a lot of their later stuff going into the 80s, and like, you know, the Pet Sematary and stuff off of Brain Drain and all of that. That's really more of my favorite Ramones stuff. But yeah, again, that's a heck of an introduction to the world right there. So those are 10 that I picked tonight. I mean, I may come back and do some more because there's a ton that I skipped over, and even like a stack sitting right over here that I kind of pulled out and didn't show. But yeah, let me know what you think about my picks there, and of course, you know, feel more than free to throw some in, and let me know what you think. All right, take care, VC.